Welcome to The Point, a podcast by Apex Benefits and dedicated to employee benefits thought leadership. You can find more episodes for free on iTunes by searching The Point or Apex Benefits. Please rate, review, and subscribe to be the first to know about what we have in store for you. To learn more about Apex Benefits, please visit our website at www.apexbg.com or find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. Let's get to the point together.
Welcome to The Point, Fort Wayne. I'm Kassee, Lamm, Benefits Strategist with Apex Benefits. And joining me today are Jim Shovlin with the Fort Wayne Mad Ants and Scott Long with Apex Benefits. Welcome to The Point, gentlemen. Jim and Scott, would you briefly introduce yourselves for our listeners?
Go ahead, Jim.
I'm Jim Shovlin, Business Development Manager and Public Address Announcer for the Fort Wayne Mad Ants, the NBA G League affiliate of the Indiana Pacers.
Welcome, Jim. Thanks, Kassee. So my name is Scott Long. I'm an executive advisor with Apex, and just thrilled to be on today with both Jim and Kassee.
Awesome. Well, like I said, welcome to The Point. Jim, would you get us started just by letting us know how long have you been in the business of sports broadcasting and sports media?
Well, I started in actual media just by chance back in about 1996. And I didn't have formal training or background. What I did have, I played in an adult baseball league with the general manager at Federated Media, Tony Richards, at the time. And we were at a practice, just shagging fly balls back and forth, and just kind of cutting up. And we started doing character voices. And he'd catch one and he'd do a voice. And so as it turned out, at the end of the practice, he says, well, and remember, this was back in the mid-'90s. He said, we got to get you on tape. And I go, yeah, sure. Well, lo and behold, Monday morning, 8:05, I get a phone call. And it was Tony. He says, get in here. I was serious. We want to put you on tape. And so I went in and did all my character voices and got a gig with the WMEE morning show and Charlie Butcher at the time. And like I said, this was back in 1996 on 97.3 WMEE. And then it went from there. Once I got in the building, then I started subbing on the only sports talk radio show in the area, and it was called Sports Talk, with Art Salzberg and Dean Pantazzi. And when one of them would have to be absent, I would fill in. And so it was just a thrill because I was an avid listener of the show anyway. And so to be able to open up a mic on WOWO Radio #1 and then to be part of the show was great. So, that was my start. And then from there, I became a public address announcer for then the Fort Wayne Wizards back in, I think it was 2004, until they turned the lights off at Memorial Stadium in 2008. Went downtown with the Fort Wayne Tin Caps in 2009. And in June of 2009 was offered the opportunity to become sports director at WOWO Radio due to Bob Chase stepping aside and calling it a lengthy, beautiful, legacy-filled career. And so I did that for just about 8.5 years, getting up at 3:30 every weekday morning, and then going to a full-time job after that was over at 9 o'clock. And once again, working with the great Charlie Butcher all the while. So in the meantime, I started my own local sports radio show, Talkin' Sports, which still airs on ESPN Radio 1380 AM 100.9 FM every Saturday morning from 9 to 10, by the way, shameless plug, talking local sports of all sorts. But I also do PA work for the University of St. Francis Cougars football team. Used to do men's and women's basketball, and I started out with Homestead boys and girls basketball. So I've kind of run the gamut as far as and of course in broadcasting high school football and basketball as well. So over the years, if I find a game, I'll talk about it. Let's put it that way.
That is fantastic. Well, Jim, I was curious, besides your current role, which role was kind of rises to the top in terms of your favorite job, and maybe help us understand why. I'm always curious what about each role makes it particularly interesting and special.
I think from a sports perspective, the years that I was sports director at Wowo Radio were very special to me. From I think it was June of 2009 through September of 2017. And I worked with, once again, the late great Charlie Butcher. But I was able to give the sports scores, give the information to people in the morning when they first woke up, and I was there to provide that. It could also provide a little bit of levity for them in the morning with our banter back and forth. But just being part of a wonderfully built news team with news and information and a little bit of entertainment is something that's been very fulfilling for me over the years. And even though getting up at 3:30 a.m. was not always the most fun I could ever have in a day, it was always something to look forward to. Once I got up and my feet hit the floor, it was going to be a great day.
I appreciate that.
That's awesome, Jim. So, Jim, as we've seen Fort Wayne grow and develop over the last 10, 15 years, how do you think sports impacts the economic development in a community, and specifically here in Fort Wayne?
Well, and of course, I'm quite an ambassador for local sports and sports in Fort Wayne, having been born and raised here and following sports of all sorts, growing up and due to this day, and seeing the importance, I feel, of what sports bring to the community in terms of, out of market revenue, the tournaments, the facilities that we possess here in Fort Wayne that allow for youth and adult tournaments to come into our town and just, welcome those that haven't been exposed to Fort Wayne, Indiana. But with some of our facilities that we offer for, youth basketball, youth hockey, youth baseball, all things such as that, we have so much to offer, and we have so many people that put so much sweat equity into these tournaments to make them attractive. We have Greater Fort Wayne and everyone that works behind the scenes there to draw these tournaments, not to mention the ones that come into the Memorial Coliseum that still bring revenue and have economic impact into our economy. It's wonderful, but it's something that's kind of a best kept secret, because a lot of people don't realize how much money is actually generated through youth and adult sports.
Jim, something I found interesting, and I've got, I suppose, a unique perspective, having grown up in Indianapolis, but with parents that were born and raised in Fort Wayne. The idea of people leaving Fort Wayne to go to Indianapolis for sporting events. I think that it's widely known now that you're really starting to see people from Indianapolis heading up to Fort Wayne, or from other regional towns and cities going into Fort Wayne, for events, particularly sporting events. But I'm curious, what do you contribute to Fort Wayne's success, and maybe even zooming out from just Fort Wayne, but the northeast part of the state? What would you contribute, to the success?
Well, I think, and when I first heard this a little over a year ago, that a lot of people from Indianapolis were actually spending weekends in Fort Wayne instead of vice versa, because that's what the norm had been for so many decades. And I think I would attribute most of that to our progressive nature currently in the downtown area, and the revitalization of downtown and creating venues. I mean, look at Parkview Field. It's
a great place to go.
The top minor league facility in all of America, several years running. People want to see that. And then the adjacent restaurants, it's just so many things now to do that we didn't have previously. And I think people from the outlying areas are saying, oh, we want to take a look and see what's going on in Fort Wayne. So, and once again, it's very helpful to our economy when we can draw people from outside in to spend their disposable income.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Jim, thanks so much for being a guest on the podcast with us this morning. It's been great to chat with you. And I'm looking forward to hearing your voice over the PA system when I get to head back to a Mad Ants game here, hopefully soon.
Thank you, Kassee. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
You can find more episodes for free on iTunes by searching The Point or Apex Benefits. Please rate, review, and subscribe to be the first to know about what we have in store for you. To learn more about Apex Benefits, please visit our website at www.apexbg.com or find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. Let's get to the point together.